dude, I was
all
just,
right.
you know what's crazy? In my suggested videos just now, Jessica and I were just watching it. It was a compilation of every all right from McConaughey from his whole career in chronological order.
How many is that?
Dude, it was like a good 5 minutes of just
5
McConaughey
minutes
all
of video.
rights. It was just all rights. But we're live right now.
Are we? Is it working?
Yeah, it's working.
I'm not even to the screen yet. I'm trying to get there. Make sure that we can hear everybody good.
I'll make sure my Jessica, no hate speech. We're live. No hate speech.
No hate speech. Can y'all hear us? Yes. Tristan, say some jibber jabber.
What's up, bigots?
Can
All
y'all
y'all
hear
bigots
this?
out there.
Is this bigot on fleek? Is he on fleek like Fergie? Is he on fleek like Fergie? The audio's on point?
There we go.
Well, they'll definitely let us know if it's even slightly off. You'll get a 500 comments. Echo! Echo!
There's an echo.
For like 30 comments.
They say Tristan's a little low. I'll just speak loudly for you guys.
Let me raise him.
Okay.
Let me raise him up a little bit, but I want to make sure we don't echo. All right.
If somebody doesn't understand the language you speak and you do loud talking slowly, they will understand.
All right, I turned up Mr. T.
Right.
He's like neo noir. He's darkly lit with a little bitty he's got a little birthday. He's got a cupcake with a little birthday candle in it, lighting his room up.
That's right. It's my birthday candle.
It's a little bitty. It's a little filet mignon with a candle in it.
The horror. The horror.
With your fantasies of never-ending meat, growing meat everywhere. With your fantasies.
How dare you, Jay Dyer? How dare you? You come to us, youth, for hope? How dare
Come
you?
to me. Come to me.
I should be in school right now, being instructed by a man with a dress and makeup. Oh, how dare you? I should be getting my 3rd round of vaccines this month in school.
Tristan sent me a clip today of Arnold Kuchenegger talking to her in an interview, and it's in Germany. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And they're like, the woman's like, "Why do you like Greta so much?" And Arnold goes, "I like her because she's amazing. She's just energizing the youth, empowering, and I'm a celebrity, and God gave me a celebrity so I could use it for something."
I'm a celebrity. I think that the God I think that the God give me the celebrity powers so I can use them for good. The God.
I want to kill everybody for the good, for the God.
It's like I always tell my kid, like, don't turn the light off. Turn the light off when you walk into the room. It's like, get the 6-cylinder car instead of 8-cylinder to save on the resources.
Now many have said, "Do you think the stogies are bad for the environment?" I tell you now, no, the stogies are recycled balls of shit, and so they are not bad for the environment. Look at you, you are a pussy. You think that you can smoke the tobacco? I am now cooked better than you. What a dork,
Arnold,
dude. He was such a lunatic.
Who's more autistic, Arnold or Greta?
Who's what?
Who's more autistic, Arnold or Greta?
Greta. But Arnold is the most cucked.
But you know what's funny? I was watching the end of Demolition Man just now, and Stallone's eyes, they kind of have that reverse Greta shape, right? Like, so Greta's eyes have that like the almond shaped and they're like curved up. Stallone's, if you flipped him upside down, he'd be like Asperger's Stallone.
He has that thing where half your face is like where there's a name for it where you have
Bell's palsy?
huh?
Bell's
Bell's
palsy.
palsy. Yeah, I think Sylvester has that. I'm not positive. I think so.
I like how there was a Arnold reference in Demolition Man. Where they talk about
Yeah.
how he was president and how they changed the Constitution so he could have been president. And this was before he was ever even governor. This is just
Exactly.
15 years before that.
That's a great point. Yeah, there's a lot of little hidden gems like that. So, if you listen to Arnold's drunk commentary on Conan, though, it's funny. I think I sent it to you a while back, but he's still kind of normal and based back then because he's like, "Oh yeah, Sandra Bergman, she was hot. Oh, she was bending over and oh wow, look at that body. Oh, I mean, he's literally
he used to grab the female interviewers and like put them on his laps and stuff and start like petting them and
yeah.
Dude, Arnold.
Now
How early
he's
do you
just
think
like
Arnold
this.
was just Arnold was probably like heavily compromised by the time he's like 21. Like so many people had dirt on Arnold by the time he was in the US competing. He was so into all those drugs. Like I mean, not just the bodybuilding, the steroids, which were basically legal back then, but I mean, he was smoking a joint on at the end of Pumping Iron. It's like when I'm on stage, it's just like I'm calming. I'm like I hit the pose and I'm calming, and I get the pump and I'm calming. It's like I'm all day. I'm just calming.
Yeah, no, he probably was compromised. Right? He's a weird dude for sure. So, welcome everybody. It's me and our good old friend Tristan from Primal Edge Health. I will, by the way, include the Primal Edge link. I always forget to put people's links. I'm the worst at that. But as you know, everybody knows Tristan does Primal Edge Health. Definitely go and subscribe to him for all of your health needs. He's definitely helped me a lot out on that health journey, as have other people.
Health.
So thank you to Tristan.
HELF, it's spelled on YouTube. HELFF.
Health. HELFFFFF. Put it like five.
Since I started,
be like a millennial. Put like 5 F's on there. Health.
Oh yeah, and the E has an accent. It's like a Spanish E.
Make it a 3. H3L.
Con acento en el E. Con acento.
So we're gonna talk about 2 dystopian films, THX 1138 and Demolition Man. So, did you finish Demolition Man?
Yes. Yeah. Just got to the end of it. Demolition Man was funny, man. That was actually hilarious.
Exactly.
Man. That was super funny.
So which one you want to start with?
Let's do THX. I like THX better.
Okay. Got a lot of notes on THX. All right.
Yeah, I got some screens. Some screenshots.
Oh, will that work? Well, so I'm new to Zoom, so I'm gonna zoom in on you.
Check it out. Like I've got right here.
You put up a screenshot thing. Oh,
I do multi
perfect.
Like that.
Perfect. That's we were definitely gonna do that one. All right. Cool. So you start. Tell me what you give your first few minutes of THX analysis here, and then I'll chime in.
All right. So THX 1138. Well, for those of you who don't know, it's George Lucas directed this film, and I think it's his best movie, the best movie he's made. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty dark dystopian future film. You know, very, very dark. I think it's like the darkest movie he's ever made. One of the darker sci-fi movies out there, but it's got kind of a gritty realism. Mm-hmm. The society is essentially all based on behaviorism, selective breeding, test tube babies, basically everything that we've been talking about here, and the chats that we've had, both on my channel and on yours, Jay, in the boiler room. I mean, it's essentially the Huxley Brave New World future, where breeding is done selectively by the state. It's what seems to be this kind of solid state economy based on social credits. They talk about credits in the film. How many credits is it going to cost to capture THX 1138? They keep talking about the credit system, and so it's essentially this technocratic dictatorship utopia dystopia where everybody is fed pharmaceutical drugs and pills, and the guys, what's his name? What's the actor's name again? Robert Duvall. Yep. Robert Duvall, who's really good in the film, like very, very little dialogue, really creative shots. Like the cinematography and the camera work's pretty amazing.
Definitely.
And his main crime in the film is not being drugged enough. He didn't take all his pharmaceuticals given to him by the state and by the television, the TV Jesus. They have like this
Mm-hmm.
TV confessional where he goes in the confessional booth and this really satanic
Right.
looking TV Jesus when they usually only sew one eye, so it's got the one eye
It's got the
symbolism. When he's
all-seeing eye, exactly.
yeah, which here's the photo that I got pulled up right here. That is him in his confessional booth,
Right.
giving telling his eco sins to Robo Jesus, and yeah. So Robert Duvall's journey starts off because he doesn't want to take his drugs. He ends up having illicit relations with his roommate, which there's no contact allowed. There's no sexuality supposedly allowed in this dystopian future, and they break the rules. Um, and it goes on this wild pod racing chase adventure through the underground city of the dystopian future. And yeah, so I mean that's kind of a basic outline of the story, but there's a lot of interesting symbolism in the movie. Like I think the photograph I got pulled up right here of the confessional, I think was one of the most kind of satanic and disturbing images in the whole film.
Definitely. Yeah, first thing I noticed was he plays at the beginning because George Lucas always had this fascination with what were they called? The cinema shorts. Like back in the 40s or 50s, when you go to the movies, they would play these shorts, the reels, and they would play like a 10-minute Buck Rogers, like a trailer. Like you would watch this little story about Buck Rogers, and then you'd have to go to the movies the next week to see the serials. That's what they're called, the serials. So Lucas and Spielberg were really influenced by these serials. And so he puts a serial at the beginning. He puts a clip of Buck Rogers as if you're going to watch a movie, in the 40s or 50s about the future. And the Buck Rogers clips are about the future, right? And so the Buck Rogers was tragedy on Saturn. That's going to set the stage for the dystopian country that we're in, or planet, or wherever we are, Earth, because it's like we're under this Saturnalian dominance. We're under this death cult dominance on planet Earth, aka Saturn in this case. So we have to mention that it's kind of a mix between Huxley's Brave New World and a lot of other dystopian novels, except the one thing that is so prescient that Brave New World forgot and didn't realize and didn't emphasize, and that 1984 forgot and didn't emphasize, is the AI. Lucas properly and correctly foresaw the importance of the smart city and the AI, and that, for whatever reason, is kind of not paid much attention to in Huxley's Brave New World. So he foresaw that, and I've always appreciated the fact that it's like a kind of a better building on Brave New World, because there's the insight into the fact that, if you notice, I know you did, but for those of you who are listening, yes, we're going to talk about the Plato's Allegory of the Cave aspect to it, but if you noticed, everybody all they do all day is build the bots that enslave them. Their whole job, their whole life is building these stupid bots, these BDSM cops that enslave them.
Yep.
And we should note, did you notice the sort of weird BDSM element to it, that they're like, there's even a channel when he's changing channels. There's a channel where you watch the beatdown channel.
Yeah,
Like,
there's the two channels. The one channel is the lust channel, and the other one is
the violence channel, where that bot's just beating that guy.
Yeah, and it's watching the cop bots just beating and
he's like
torturing the person.
Settling in, just like, yeah, beat him. There's this,
And
sick.
it predicts the VR thing, like the whole.
Right. It's a virtual
apartment. Right. One of the craziest scenes in the film is the one you're talking about right there. He's in his apartment. Here's a picture of it. It's his apartment. He jumps in front of the TV, which is this AI projector. It's AI run.
A fleshly light descends out of the ceiling,
and Joe Rogan's fleshlight drops out of the freaking ceiling. Joe Rogan sponsors this film apparently, and he drops a fleshlight, and it shows like the thing. It's like going up and down, and Robert Duvall's just like getting wanked by, and he's watching this kind of racially.
He's watching the Africa channel.
Is it an African, or is she like ambiguous? I feel like she was.
No, it's the Africa channel, because he switches it to the guy channel, and
Okay.
it says I was reading facts about the movie. It said that the hologram black dude is the hologram program that he meets later on when he's trying to escape.
Yes.
Which is I had actually never noticed that until this viewing.
Well,
Another
how
thing.
funny is that?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Well,
Oh
another
no,
thing.
I mean, I was just gonna laugh about the other fleshlight. No.
Yeah. It's the fleshlight of the gods, right? Like you talked about.
But
Because
the
it
fact
like it
that it
descends
predicts
out of
VR, it predicts the popularity of VR, and that it's going to be in everybody's home, and that people are going to be interacting in weird ways cybernetically through the VR, like
yeah.
the fleshlight machine. Did you notice? Here's another picture. This was a cool shot. I don't know if this was only in the reboot version, because the version that I just watched, it
Oh,
was
that
one I
little
hadn't seen.
lizard. Yeah.
Was that in the original film or
I don't
no?
think so. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I think they might have added that
It
scene,
is
but
because
this
they
was,
added the mutants too.
yep. Yeah, they added quite a few special effects shots, but I did like this edition just as an image. The inside the walls that are kind of like in Brazil. All the
Yeah.
wires are everywhere. Inside of that, the roots, the guts of the AI system. He puts the snake, the lizard, the serpent. It looks like a
Oh,
flying bird.
good point. Yeah, it's serpentine. I didn't even think about that. I was
That's
just
so
thinking about,
cool.
it's showing us that, outside of this immediate circle of the city, it's an underground base, by the way. If you never know, it's an underground city. There's these mutants because of some kind of radioactive something. We don't know what's happened, but for some reason the
Yeah.
humans have had to flee underground, presumably some radioactive apocalypse situation. And so, in order to survive, the humans have had to build these AI, and then at some point they got enslaved, and they're basically just in this symbiotic cycle of madness where they build the bots that enslave them. So,
Yeah, and the AI, I love how he shows here. The AI is this kind of cold serpentine creature. I mean, it's a the whole system they live in is very satanic, right? With
oh,
complete
totally, yeah.
inversion of all of the everything is inverted in this reality, and the satanic use of religion, the false religion that's portrayed, which in the Hollywood way, they think they're making a critique on Christianity, right? Like, oh, this is the result of the totalitarian Christian type thinking. That's kind of what I got, at least
Yeah.
from that. But really, they're just showing how I see it. They're just showing exactly how the system is, how it inverts things.
Yeah, I mean, the
idols.
technocracy that's coming will have a religion attached to it, and it will probably try to utilize aspects of Christianity and whatever. So yeah. Also, I had not noticed Francis Ford Coppola is an executive producer, so that was a new element I'd never seen. Also, keep in mind, emotions and families are banned. You can't have a family, you can't have emotions, you can't have relations with people in a normal way.
All breeding was controlled. Every
Exactly.
aspect of breeding completely controlled.
You confess your sins to the AI god, the state god, and I did appreciate that. That was an interesting aspect to where you have to say, let me put it up here. You have these prayers like you would have like at Catholic confession or whatever. Well, I mean, Orthodox do confession too, but it's like, you are a true believer. Blessings of the state, blessings of the masses. I'll read it like it goes. You are a true believer. Blessings of the state, blessings of the masses. Thou art a subject of the divine, created in the image of man by the masses for the masses. So it's like this total collectivist, technocratic, socialist, communist society.
It's like the satanic creed right there, right? That's created in the image of man by man. I think they say like for the masses.
And you have an occupation, production, right? So you're a worker. So it's like the ultimate technocratic Marxist system that's also combined with capitalism. So it has, like Brave New World, it has the elements of both Marxism and capitalism. So here's the full quote for you guys if you want to see it. I'll just put that up real quick. And they use that creepy Jean Von Eyck, or I don't know, whoever painted that creepy Jesus there. They use that
super
one.
Creepy, right? The eyes are very.
It's a Bernini, or it's some Renaissance, papal guy that did that. So there's that, and then exactly, we always, this is one of the most iconic images in the film, as you said, is
be happy. Don't you love how it says be happy? And
be
such a,
happy. Yeah.
and
And then I like that. I like that other
word.
voice that's always like, take 3 red pills. Not feeling well? Take 5 blue pills today. It's like this really shitty fake voice. Take
But
2 blue
I
pills.
like how they did a good job with his acting too. You know, he's like, I don't feel well. You know, every time he almost has human emotions, he says, I don't feel
Well,
well.
did you notice? I didn't notice. Jamie noticed it. This is the first time I'd ever noticed that it's his girlfriend, well, his partner, whatever she is, roommate. She wants real connection, and it's actually her that replaces his pills. So his whole process of getting woke is because she started getting rid of the normal pills he takes. And so then he starts having a withdrawal because he's not getting his normal NPC drugs that make him a mindless zombie. And he has this withdrawal phase. He starts puking and whatnot. And then he's woke. He's like, shit's crazy. What is going on? And that's what leads to him dropping the nuclear reactor thing that goes into the bot. And that gets him put in rehab.
Yeah.
So basically, they're just basically, I wanted to add too in my notes. It's a gender neutral society. You can't be clearly male or female. The women look just like the men. Let's put I had an image.
And everyone's got their head shaved.
Yeah, I had an image of that. So everybody looks this sort of just generic. They all wear, it's like you're in the whole place is like a big mental institute. Everybody's wearing a lab coat. It's like a big corporation mixed with a lab coat, mixed with living inside of a mall parking garage. like when he walks out of.
They shot it. I mean, I almost wanted to do some research on like some of the locations that they shot in, because some of these locations were amazing. Like some of the indoor locations where they showed like the computer mainframe type stuff. Like it almost, especially for the year, what was it, 1970?
Early 70, yeah, 71 too, somewhere there.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like they were at, they must have went to some like NASA or DARPA facility to shoot some of this stuff.
It was, let's see, when did it? Oh, I had it pulled up. No, I don't have it pulled up anymore. Did you notice too that? Oh, the other thing I noticed too that everybody spies on everybody else. Like anything that you do wrong, you're like you're in violation, and you're supposed to report it. You're in violation. Like that's what they want, like a total social justice situation where you just automatically, you're in violation. Report people right away. The red
society, where everybody's paranoid, everybody's looking out for what everyone's driven by jealousy, like petty infighting with each other to climb the system, kind of like in Brazil.
Yeah, to get the little petty credits over everybody else. Exactly.
If you drag, like I'm looking at the YouTube video. If you drag the screen with me over a little bit, you'll be able to see the screenshot I've got of Robert Duvall breakdancing, remote control breakdancing.
That part's funny too, because they can like do these tests on different like bodily movements when they're messing with him and they're trying to tweak him to fix him. Like, what's wrong with this one?
Yeah, that was crazy. That part. Well, they send him into detention, and they basically say, we're going to reprogram you, we're going to condition you or something, reconditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And they start that. I really like how that scene was done, and it's you don't see the people who are talking, but they're looking at it through a screen, and they're like moving knobs and dials, and like, go E4, and then he starts twitching out.
I've got a little lack on the 216. Turn up the 216 a little bit. Give it a little bit of an
contorting.
Yeah, and they're just having this really bland, mundane conversation about torturing him and just turning all these knobs and buttons and.
So it's like he's already outfitted with all these cybernetic control mechanisms.
Right.
Maybe they have, I don't know if it's microchips, whatever it was. They that scene was very, very disturbing. The way
because it's totally inhumane. They don't even have like any. There's no compunction about basically torturing him. Is essentially what it is.
And it's, to me, that was. I mean, that's kind of the film in a nutshell, right? Like the dehumanizing nature of the technocracy, the dehumanizing nature of that physicalistic or the naturalistic worldview that leads to that, and the scientific worldview, as Bertrand Russell called it. that's what that's an outcropping of. I mean, the film is basically showing Bertrand Russell's wet dream for the future
Yeah.
of a total controlled, dehumanized society.
Now don't
And
forget.
it's funny,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the food that they eat too. They like,
Yeah, it's
it
like
just
it's
looks
like a frozen buffet or frozen dinner with like 2 chunks of tofu and 4 pills. It's like
yeah, it's pills and tofu chunks,
yeah,
like
right.
blocks of tofu chunks,
So fake
round.
food. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then don't forget
And when he has to get reprogrammed, he's like, he gets thrown into this huge crazy MRI machine with all these moving parts and
yeah,
big, magnetic imaging type shit, and they're like, these suction cups go and cover his eyes, and then they're
right.
blowing stuff through his nose and giving him injections, and um but it's, I don't know, as far as like a portrayal of a completely technocratically controlled society, it's one of the most like horrific films
Yeah.
ever. Like it's really dark. But then the whole film is white. Everything is white.
Mhm.
All the walls are white. Everybody's wearing all white.
It's like being in a
Uh,
giant Walmart. You get the impression everything is lit by these awful fluorescent lights. It's a giant, again, Walmart mixed with a lab, mixed with a government facility, mixed with a parking garage. It's just the most bleak setting imaginable. And let's not forget Donald Pleasance either, the classic Donald Pleasance character, who's in quite a few dystopian movies because he's more or less the Nick Cage of his day. He was in like a zillion movies, including a lot of excellent roles in John Carpenter movies. And I do a very good Donald Pleasance here. If you've ever watched, if you've ever seen Donald Pleasance in Prince of Darkness, he plays a priest who is in a secret Gnostic order. So there's my Donald Pleasance, and he is the friend of Robert Duvall. I'm not exactly clear on what his role
he's not.
is.
He's like his enemy. He's
He
like
is
this
because
guy
he
who's like,
tries to rat him out, but then he also kind of also tries to escape but doesn't make it.
but he's got this weird like homoerotic obsession with him too. Like he wants him
He's
to
like,
move in with him.
"You should
He's
be
like,
my
I've arranged.
roommate. Don't report me. We could be really good friends, you see."
He says like, I have seen your cleanliness reports.
He's like, "You have very high cleanliness ratings, some of the highest, really."
But dude, they have social credits in this. In
That's
the
what I
film
was gonna say.
that made
Everything
him-
is quantified, and you have a credit for everything. Everything is rated. Everything.
AI centrally controlled society with social credits, and it's all a credit system. And everybody's just programming the AI and making bots that are going to beat them up. You know what I liked? I mean, I didn't like it, but it was it's a great detail in the film. The police bots, when Robert Duvall is being tortured by them. See if I got a screenshot of that scene. I like how the scene was shot. It was actually really aesthetically interesting. It was like endless white, but when they're touching him, they're being instructed by the guys who are watching it on TV, and they're telling them to like hit certain points on him, and they're not even hitting him. They just
They're just
poke
like,
him.
yeah,
They just touch his body at different parts.
you're right.
And he's already been so programmed in this MK Ultra society. Like all they have to do is touch E4 on his heel, and he's like, ah! Just gives these exaggerated reactions.
Right.
So everybody's been operant conditioned, and everybody's
Yes.
been
Totally
have low-
behaviorist society. Exactly.
Yeah, so all they have to do is touch their little parts of their body, and the people freak out and they act like they're dying.
Did you notice too? There was a statement about chemical imbalance. Now, this was in the early '70s, and I'm sure there was some degree of discussion about the idea of disorders coming from chemical imbalance. But I don't know that in the early '70s this was that well known or that well prevalent. Maybe some places in like medical or academia, but the idea of chemical imbalance doesn't, from my recollection, enter into mainstream consciousness until the late 80s, early 90s, when they really started the push for Prozac and then later Zoloft.
This kind of came out of also. I mean, this came out of the basically the Rockefeller grant money that went through Caltech, and this is all documented really well in Lily E.K.'s book called what is the book called? I got it here somewhere. The Molecular Vision of Life, Caltech, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the Rise of the New Biology. But this book talks all about the totalitarian system of biology that came around, molecular biology, and how this was all influenced by the reductionist thinking of the Rockefeller Foundation, the Rockefeller family, who wanted to find a way to control biology and basically create a decentralized academic and economic model where you would eventually have diagnoses of chemical imbalances for behavioristic control of the organism. This is all a part of major funding that came out of big foundations going through the university system, and of course DARPA seed money as well, going through Caltech and a lot of these um, projects back then. But yeah, the molecular vision of life, Caltech, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the Rise of the New Biology by Lily E.K. is a really good book if you want to look
Yeah,
into.
that one is one I have. Since you've mentioned it, it's on the globalism book list. So
A quick read, because a lot of it, the history part of it's really interesting, and then there's a lot of just technical stuff that's not so interesting. But yeah, that's a good
also,
one.
no, there was. Did you notice too? There was a fake politics channel on the hologram. There was also, which I thought was kind of funny, and that dumb
I didn't even
comedy
catch
channel.
that. I didn't even
Huh?
catch that.
Yeah, there was like this dumb politics channel of two just generic dudes talking about the issues, and then there was a fake comedy channel that was not funny that they were flipping through.
I remember the comedy channel. That was yeah,
Did
that
you
was
know? And
good.
then so there's also religion here. So that there's a transformation of a kind of a Catholicism mixed with Buddhism, because the
Mm,
Jesus that you confess to, his name's not Jesus. He's called the Om 000.
yeah.
So it's Om and then 000. So not 666, not it's but nothingness, right? So this kind of weird Buddhist conception of like Jesus embodying some kind of non-being. It's a very bizarre, but I think it's just trying to convey emptiness and a hollow synthetic. The religion is just as virtual and synthetic as everything else
Yeah,
in
it
this
reminded
society.
me of that Philip K. Dick book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is what Blade Runner was based
Yeah,
on. And
Blade
in
Runner.
that film, they have Mercerism, and like the Mercer is this, basically he's this Jesus figure on TV, and he's always kind of being like tortured and pushing a rock up a hill, and it keeps falling down like Sisyphus. And it's for some reason it reminds me of that, like everybody interacting with the television, the TV, and of course now we have social media. But this predicted and essentially portrayed the media's complete control of the religious sphere, and how entertainment and religion are used singularly.
Did you notice how everything is looked at, even your heartbeat and your pulse, your temperature? So it's like a Fitbit society. Did you notice that
Yeah.
aspect of it
Yeah,
too?
everything is monitored, right? Like Jacques Attali in his book, he talks about the cell phones are eventually going to be used as monitoring, or they are monitoring devices, but people are going to start using them to monitor their health, and then how this will be tied in with insurance, and of course measures of wellness and all this stuff. And the film has that in it constantly, and everybody needs to be drugged and maintain a certain chemical balance in order to influence their behavior. All going back to this
Yeah.
mechanistic, naturalistic approach to looking at people as just, you're a rat in a cage. You're just there to be stimulated, and you're completely controlled by your environment. And there's no reason to believe that, in behaviorism, they believe there's no reason to believe that people have a soul or even thoughts or internal states. All they have is external reactions to stimulus, and that's what the
Despite
film
all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage.
That's my a little
kind
bit
of got
of
the Billy Corgan look going
Billy
on right now.
Corgan there. Um, yeah. So also, let's see. Did you notice? I appreciated more this time around when he goes to the rehab institute, that there's all of these seemingly loony people there that are just doing these random ramblings. Like there's like five lunatics just sitting around, and they're all just kind of like totally autistic, almost just talking to themselves, almost like they're
Yes, that was one of
schizophrenic.
the weirdest
And
scenes.
there, and that,
There's a
and that
picture
one,
of it.
that one
There,
guy's like, you see, I first was here, and then I realized that I should stop beginning the tearing everything apart, and then I find myself in such a curious situation. And friend, do you see the? And so basically, what we're getting is that the people who figure things out are the ones that go crazy, and then they confine them to the rehab, but it's because they're the society is driving them crazy, and they're the ones that are actually kind of figuring things out.
Well, this is what's so weird about the movie and how they portrayed. I haven't seen this done in a film so well, but they kind of showed how the whole society, all the programming and everything was just meant to break people, gaslight them, make them feel crazy, make them feel mad. And yeah, the images that I got pulled up right now, it's like there's this like big old autistic Mexican guy, and then the cops bring in this midget, this dwarf, and
Yeah,
this
he's
guy,
one of the
he's like,
mutants
what's
from the outer shell, they call it.
Yep, the outer shell mutants. He brings in an outer shell mutant, and this guy just wants to touch him. He like throws him behind this thing and starts feeling him up. But in this, like right before that, the first shot where you come into this scene, one of the guys is doing Tai Chi, right? So they're doing yoga and meditating and doing Tai Chi. They're basically, it's like they're just doing what what boomers do, like I guess, normal boomer behavior of
Well,
Tai Chi and meditation.
and then there's a guy who is there for messing up, violating, and he tries to grab a woman and take her over and have sex with her, and she flakes up and goes, ah, ah.
Yeah.
So they've confined.
But the way that they shot it, the way everybody's acting, they're all acting like, people on acid or something, right?
Well,
or
but
autistic.
I think there's a key point here. It's that the people who are starting to do normal things, they're confining to, like the guy wants to have sex.
Yeah.
Robert Duvall is coming out of his drug trip and he's wanting out of this crazy world. And then Donald Pleasance is starting to wake up a little bit too. So they confine you to this place when you start to wake up to drive you back into the madness, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, like the whole system was this ritualistic torture of the human to make them mad. And
Right.
the screen I got pulled up right now, where it talks about chemical imbalance. You see how they list reusable parts, organs compatible with clinical
Yes,
type,
good point.
defects, kidney left. So I mean, you got organ harvesting, the reusing of people for parts. They basically, humans are just biological machines in this film and in this worldview, which is, the worldview that this film, or that whoever made the society that this film is portraying, it basically is the technocratic, Luciferian,
Right.
Freemasonic worldview that we get taught in the West right now.
Yeah, and it's not capitalism or communism, it's both, because there is the accumulation of credits, there is the concern about too much spending of credits and this kind of stuff. There's also the collectivist aspect, because you're part of this hive mind, and you can't, if you go against the hive mind, you need to be done away with. But they're also very concerned about spending and about budgets, and do you remember when he gets that little play toy ball? Is that his credits? And there's a guy who's trying to like put the blocks inside of the holes and put them in the right thing. And so he gets paid in like a toy, and then he like goes home and he puts that in the wall and it turns the TV on.
Yeah, I like that, because it shows how dumbed down society is, right? Like,
They're
here's
like
your
a
little
bunch
toy.
of dumb kids. Yeah.
Bring home your surveillance device and keep this next to your bed as you sleep, THX 1138. And then when you come back, put it right in line within the beehive shape of all the other toys. Yeah, it was a very weird, ritualistic. It almost seems like that. The way that they used colors too kind of reminds me of like Skinner type stuff and the operant conditioning and
Oh, good point. Yeah.
right, because even like red, yellow, blue light, or red, yellow, green light with us. I mean, these things are.
It reminded me of kids. Yeah, like kids being studied by Skinner or somebody, and giving the kids a big foam toy and being like,
Can't you find where to put the toy?
and then the slow kids over there like trying to stuff the star-sized foam thing into the circle thing, like, and they even take one guy away because he's trying to put the square in the circle. He's like, ooh. And so they take him away, and the robot's talking this really nice,
All right. Nice try, but come with me.
It's all fake.
I like how the robot is David Lynch. Like,
it does talk like David Lynch.
It's like David Lynch on TRT.
So then we see that there was some kind of mutations to the people outside of the shell. So we're told. We don't exactly know what's going on, but the midgets and the weird creatures and mutations presumably have something to do with that, or it's a big lie, because as we're going to see, if you haven't seen the movie, spoiler alert, eventually Robert Duvall makes his way out, and he crawls up out of the underground base, fake civilization, smart city, and he sees that there is the sun and a bird. So the fact that he sees a bird shows us that life is possible outside of this matrix underground Plato cave that's been constructed.
Yeah, I like how they have the chase scene before that. Well, he meets the guy with the hologram, right? Or he meets the hologram
yeah.
dude, the black guy, and then he finds out that well, it ends up being revealed how everybody is bred. I'm trying to find the screenshot of
The girl that he liked, she got pregnant, and that was a no-no. So it says they consumed her, and then they've given her name to a new embryo that's being grown in a test tube.
Yeah, so they repurposed her name, and she's gone. Everyone's just a number, and once they're done, they get reused for parts when they're not useful to the state, to the masses, which are the state. Then they're done with them.
Yeah,
They reuse their name. So
one thing, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's just there's no sacredness to life. There's your name doesn't even matter. No one's gonna remember you. We'll just slap the name on another fetus and move on.
One thing I want to ask you, I still couldn't figure out, is the hologram guy. Is he part of the system to try to trick THX 1138, or is he actually?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
Is he actually
I'm always
a rebel program?
Yeah, that's what's not really clear, right? So it's not really clear if he's being led by this AI to leave the building.
Yeah.
Because the hologram guy gives him certain hints but then it just redirects him right back into the masses, right? It's like, hey, let's go, guys. I've got the way out. And they go through a doorway, and it's just this endless hall of people just rushing, right? Like rush hour zombies in white suits. And I guess it's ambiguous. I don't know if maybe there's something I missed. Maybe
because when he tells him the truth about the repurposing of his girlfriend's name, it's almost like I was trying to figure out: is he trying to demoralize him and just get him to go back into the system, or is he just trying to say, "Look, man, here's your chance. Get out of here. This is how crazy it is." I couldn't tell either way, but it could be that the system had already determined that they might as well just let him go, because not only is he a liability for credit costs trying to track him down, but it could be that he could spark a revolution if they let him stay. So maybe they just decided, well, better to just let this guy go, and therefore the robot program sort of prompted him to get out of there, like a virus. Like, he's a virus, get out of here. But
there's some parts of it where it was hard to tell if it's sloppy writing or if it's intentionally vague, and if it's hard to tell if they're doing these things on purpose sometimes.
Yeah, I like that you put when Donald Pleasance's character sort of wanders into the TV studio. So basically, they realize that the God character, the Om, is just this figure on projected on TV screens, and it kind of crushes Donald Pleasance's worldview, and he's just like, "What is this? What's this? This is not right." Right, and he realizes that it's essentially a projection, and then the monk comes in, and the monk's gonna tell on him, and he I guess he kills him, but all he does is just kind of slap his face and push him down, and it kills the monk.
Yeah, there's a few things like that in the movie, which just doesn't make sense. Yeah, that was a good scene, man. I mean, just the image right there of the camera, all the cables, and kind of spread all along the ground like serpents, and it's I mean, the whole reality that they have, it's manufactured and projected, the projected lie.
And I think that's the thing that we're supposed to grasp about when he escapes, is because the last thing he hears when he's crawling up the escape hatch is "We're here to help you. You can't survive outside the city. Don't go out there. You can't live." And then he gets out. He just decides, I'd rather die than deal with that crap. Then when he gets out there, he realizes he sees a bird. So obviously they're lying.
Yeah. It reminds me, there's a book or a short story that I read a long time ago, The Penultimate Truth from Philip K. Dick, and it's like the same concept. This is an underground world and everybody has this false reality, and then they realize that the world outside is not this apocalyptic doom zone on fire, that it's actually, there's a world outside of the shell that they're living in. And um, yeah, so I wonder if he was reading Philip K. Dick, or if maybe they knew each other. I'm not sure, but it
I'm
definitely
sure
seems to be
he had
interesting.
read, yeah, he had, I'm sure he's, because he and Spielberg are big Philip K. Dick fans, so I'm sure they'd read him. And then, of course, I mean, the whole story is Plato's allegory of the cave, too. This is the ancient, origin of even the PKD stories, is the Gnostic mythos that, oh, well, this whole world, this whole reality is a prison, universe, and we got to escape out of it. And that's the whole point of the allegory of the cave, is that when you try to tell the people in the cave about this light source outside the cave, they would rather be watching the TV and the shadows on the cave wall than to exit the cave to see the reality. They'd rather look at the phantasms and the virtual and the faux reality than to go outside the cave and see the reality.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I don't know. I think it's Lucas's best sci-fi movie. I think it's one of the better sci-fi movies, older ones at least, from the 70s, 80s. It's hard to think of a better one. This one and Blade Runner, I'd say, are my two favorite old school sci-fi movies.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. It's so bleak. It's hard for me to watch it more than maybe once every 5 or 10
It's
years.
so That's why it's so hard, right? It's
Yeah,
like I think I've probably watched it 3 times, and every time it's like you kind of want to cry during parts of it because
it's
it's just
hard to
so
watch. Yeah,
heavy. And when you see, it's not just that the actual film is dark, it's that it's so realistic, and
right.
it's like tapping into that super satanic system that we see being slowly constructed right now. And it's you got to wonder if Lucas was privy to a lot of the information that was going around, the MK Ultra type stuff, because what he portrays, it's like, it's straight up. Even they even talk about these, they say the word cybernetics.
Yeah,
Remember that?
right.
The hologram says, "Oh, I'm new to all this stuff."
Lasers and
Cybernetics.
cybernetics. Yeah.
Yeah, lasers and phasers, cybernetics. You old rascal.
Hey, hey, hey. All right, so that's the extent of all you're going to get of Stallone. I'm not going to bore you with Stallone impersonations. So let's move to Demolition Man. I remember seeing Demolition Man I think in the theater in 1993. I probably went to the theater to see this. This was a big summer, probably. No, right after summer, October release. So right around moving into wintertime, fall. Cost 45 or 50 million and made 150 million. So this was a hit. And this was
That's a huge budget for back then. 50
yeah, it
million.
was. So hey, you got a lot of star power. I mean, Sandra Bullock's pretty new. She's the female lead. You've got Stallone and Wesley, who were big A-list action stars at the time. So this is big name people.
Yeah.
And it's goofy, but there's a lot of insights in this goofy movie because it's unique in the sense that a lot of the dystopian stories miss the clown aspect of the dystopia that we are moving into. The honk honk, they missed that. Like in Huxley, you don't get any honk honk. But the dystopia that we are moving into in the real world is honk honk. It's all clown crap. I mean, I don't mean literal. Well, there's literal clowns, but it's also just clown world, right? So, for
Yeah,
example,
like it's so ridiculous, it's so absurd when you put it on paper. When you say it, it sounds like a joke.
it would have sounded too right. And there's an
Or
aspect.
is honk honk just a coping mechanism that we have to come up with so that we don't freak out too much and cry all the time? We got to laugh at it.
So it's 1990s, and Stallone is his name is John Spartan or something like that, and his whole thing is like he's a special ops cop guy who goes in and takes out really nasty bad guys, and he gets this title Demolition Man because he blows up this building trying to get at Wesley Snipes, whose goofy name is Simon Phoenix, the
Phoenix.
archetype of the evil character. He can't get him. He ends up blowing up this building, and this gets him sentenced. So we're already kind of in a dystopian period. We open up with the Hollywood signs on fire. LA is in a big, apocalypse situation. And there's some attempt at having order with these sort of special forces type guys like John Spartan. So he's sentenced along with Simon Phoenix to be cryogenically frozen for a period of time, like 50 years, something like that. So one thing I didn't understand is why are they cryogenically freezing the psychopaths and the good guys? like why are you freezing all the psychopaths, presumably to study them for well, actually I think later on we figure out why, but initially we don't know why they're freezing psychopaths, right?
It's funny how they freeze them too. Like they had this really exaggerated long freezing scene where just way too many naked shots of Stallone's
butt,
like various angle. It was like Stallone's bicep, Stallone's abs,
Mm-hmm.
Stallone's butthole. It was pretty graphic.
Now
scene.
This was interesting. Did you catch Sandra Bullock's name?
Yeah, Huxley.
Exactly.
Sandra's Huxley.
Exactly. So the names are relevant even in this goofy movie. So in the cryo penitentiary, they're cryogenically frozen. And get this, in the cryogenic freezing state, they engage in subliminal rehabilitation techniques. Now, when they end up unfreezing Stallone several decades later, they do this to combat a villain who's become unfrozen at the behest of the city's mayor. Right? So the city mayor has unfrozen Wesley Snipes and actually modified him to be a super soldier, essentially. So he's got these techniques of being like a super killer. He's a mega psychopath. He's had all of his empathy bred out of him and all this. He's like the Joker. He's like pure chaotic evil, right? We later figure out
he's also really corny too. He's got bleached
totally.
hair.
He's got like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air overalls, and he's got the blonde black dude hair.
Yeah, and he just his lines are always really corny too. It's like, I want to kill somebody. So
here you go.
I'm a bad guy. I'm mean. He talks to himself.
He's got the eyeball on a pen. Yeah, there's the eyeball on a pen.
And one of his eyes is blue, one of them's green.
Yep. He's like David Bowie with the two eye colors. So and he's wearing those Fresh Prince of Bel-Air overalls the whole time. Did you notice that?
And in the first scene, he's like doing a line of coke on the table or something. Like, come on.
So they do the same technique with Stallone, except that they've replaced his aggressive tendencies with knitting. They implant into him anytime he feels aggression, he knits. So the reason this is relevant is that it's also the operant conditioning, the mind MK Ultra level programming, where they attempt to. They're not creating super soldiers for the purpose of going out and doing Demolition Man stuff. It's to create the society. And what's funny is that this pseudo pacifist society that they. It's actually a pacifist society. Everybody's been totally neutered. Nobody cusses. Yeah. Nobody does anything. It's like
everything. They don't even touch each other
when they say hello. Society.
They put their hands right up next to each other, and there's no contact.
You don't have contact. When Sly wakes up, he thinks he's going to get laid. Sandra Bullock takes him back to her apartment, and she's like, "Well, do you want to have sex?" And he's like, "Yeah, hell yeah." And then they sit down and they put on like the Facebook goggles.
Yeah, they put on the goggles, and he's like,
"The hell is this?"
And it just like flashes, like it shows her mouth, and it makes sounds. And he's like, don't you just want to do it? Like takes it off.
Yeah.
And then she gets very offended when he actually tries to kiss her.
She's like, "Ew,
what are you doing?
Bodily fluids." Oh.
Yeah, that's what she says. The illegal transfers of fluids, like there was too many diseases.
And she does this all the time. Like she acts just like the people in THX. She calls out. She's like, "That's a no-no. That's a violation," right? And
You said the naughty word.
you said yeah. And he's like, I want to exchange bodily fluids. I want to eat meat. She's like,
Yeah, well,
"Ew."
did you get that part where they're telling him the list of all the things you're not allowed to do? They're like, oh, you can't eat. There's no meat.
Yeah,
There's no
no meat.
contact sports. There's no. What else did she say? There's this whole list of things you don't
She says
do anymore.
abortion's
One of them was-
illegal, but also is having kids because you have to have a license to have a kid.
yeah, she says abortion's illegal, like that's a bad thing. But then she says, but you need a license to have a kid anyways, so it's okay. That was kind of a funny detail there. The only restaurant
And
they
the
mentioned.
future restaurant is Pizza Hut. Now in the original,
No,
I don't know why,
Taco
but in the original screenplay it was Taco Bell, so they actually had to like CGI out all of the Taco Bells, and they had to add in Pizza Hut. And
Wait, dude, the version I watched, it was Taco Bell.
oh, okay, so
They changed it?
there's two versions. Yeah, there's one where they got sued over it, I think, and then they had to change it all.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
and
one I
then-
watched was Taco Bell.
But when they go to Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, you get this little tiny vegan plate. Did you notice that?
Yeah, yeah, and they have these little cups of like water. That's all they have.
Yeah, the food is like a little bitty tiny. If you've ever been to a vegan restaurant,
Yes, I've had the unfortunate experience.
yeah, and they'll give you like this. They'll give you this plate of like these little pieces of vegetable, and that's your whole meal.
That'll be $17.50.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like $20 for like 3 little slices of lettuce on a cracker.
Here's your bliss bowl, sir. Your acai bliss bowl.
Remember too that it is the mayor who has organized this plot. He is the one actually who got Simon Phoenix who woke him up out of his cryogenic state. And it's basically like a false flag. And he's doing this because he wants to set up Dennis Leary, who's part of the underground revolution. So there's this whole civilization that lives underground that's in rebellion.
And then he says like, this is so perfect. Everybody's so afraid. You're so intimidating. Everyone's so afraid of you. They're in so much fear. I'm going to create the perfect society. I'm going to create the perfect ordered world. So you kind of brings out the order out of chaos, Masonic creed,
right,
right there.
But he runs the terrorists. That's the thing, is that the
that's what I'm saying. Like, he's telling this to the terrorist guy. Like, this is great. Everyone's so afraid of you. I'm going to use you as a threat to bring in my perfect world.
Right, because he needs to stamp out Dennis Leary's underground revolution, and anytime I think of Dennis Leary, I just think of. I don't think he's ever made me laugh, but I remember in the 90s, just Comedy Central promoted Dennis Leary just
a lot,
nonstop.
Always smoking.
He's like this really acidic personality of just cussing
it's
and
like,
smoking.
I'll say the mean thing that no one else will say.
Yeah. But I've never ever laughed at Dennis Leary. So
no, he was never funny. He had a lot of. He had a show, right?
Yeah, I think he's had multiple weird different shows. I don't even remember what they were, but yeah.
He's like Dennis Miller. I mean, I think if you have the name Dennis, you're doomed as a comic. I can't believe this. Dennis Miller was so unfunny. Sometimes he would come out with something like semi-clever, but just the delivery was so weird.
Oh, did you notice the funny part too when Wesley Snipes wakes up and he goes to the Museum of Violence? Did you see that? Remember that part?
Yeah.
So he goes to the Museum of Violence and he sees a bunch of Asian peoples, and he starts making race jokes. Did you catch that? And he he
did like some Ching Chong Chinaman type jokes.
It sets off the no-nos alarm that if you say something you can't say, the no-no alarm goes off and you get fined, and you get this little piece of paper, you get a ticket.
Every time you swear, there's sensors everywhere. Yeah, they tried to really include a lot of that slapstick. The jokes didn't really work, right? Some of the concepts for the jokes are kind of funny, but the actual delivery and the timing and everything, none of the jokes were like, none of them really worked, but it was funny concepts.
Interestingly, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal turned this role down, and Sly took it.
I mean, it's like on paper, I don't know. It's a pretty corny movie. You can see
it's super corny. Totally.
It's not an easy film to make too. It's like, I mean, on paper, I don't know what the tone was before, when you had the script, like if they wanted it to be a comedy or if they wanted it to be more bleak and serious, and then I don't know. It's hard to tell.
All right, so let's see. I think. Oh, and
Yeah,
then
I
of course
like
we have sort of the opening of the Pandora's box, right? So the guy who woke up Simon Phoenix, the mayor guy who's trying to set up the dystopia Brave New World, he's programmed Wesley Snipes that he can't kill him, but it was ironic because all Wesley Snipes had to do was ask his dude in his gang to kill him. So it was really dumb.
He didn't program him to not be able to do that.
Yeah,
he's like,
so
shoot this mother.
So he opens Pandora's box. The controlled chaos gets out of control, and then it takes, of course, Sylvester to come to the scene, and that whole final scene where he freezes Wesley Snipes, and then it's like that part's super dumb, super cheesy. It's funny because he knocks his head off, his head bounces like a basketball, and then it
shatters. red glass shatter because his blood is frozen.
How many times in movies does somebody get frozen and busted? I mean, this is
so bad.
But all right, so
he did the Sub-Zero fatality.
Sub-Zero fatality. All right, I don't have anything else on that. What do you think? So it did have.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny movie. I think we talked about most of the important parts, right? The surveillance society. It's a lot of the same concepts as THX. They're constantly telling us.
Oh, it had the self-driving cars too.
Self-driving cars, right? Everything was automated. Basically, everything was automated. They were talking to the AI as well.
And it was a smart city too. It took me a while to figure out if it was, but everything is listened to and watched. And remember when they tried to do graffiti, and then like this something comes on and like electrifies the graffiti off. So everything is automated. Everything is it is
even it was like a cyberpunk graffiti, right? It was a drone that popped up out of the ground for the underground guys, and it tried to spray graffiti. That was one of the first scenes.
Oh, and the underground guys eat meat. Did you catch that?
Yeah, Dennis Leary. He's like, screw it, I want to eat meat. I want to have high cholesterol. I want to smoke cigars. Yeah.
So
it's
a
funny,
vegan,
like in both
pacifist,
films,
social justice society.
Yeah, and everybody was just everybody was really goofy dumb,
They're very effete too. Did you notice too? Like they're very like everybody's wearing gowns and they're just kind of walking around like.
They're kind of like they're very like they're like Prada, they're like Nazi Prada police uniforms. They have like leather gloves and sashes, and they're definitely designed after the aesthetic of like SS and Himmler and stuff, but with a little bit more flair. Oh, you're muted. What happened?
But they're not tough. They're real effete, and they run up to Wesley Snipes, but they're kind of scared, and he like.
And they all laugh and grin like idiots. Like every time something happens, they're like, "Hey, yeah, cool."
They're emasculated. Totally, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And the woman, I like the how dumb the lady is. Like she's always trying to. They're all obsessed with 20th century culture too.
That's a great point. Yeah. She's obsessed with the past. They go to her apartment and she's got a post. Do you know she has a poster of Lethal Weapon?
Yeah, Lethal Weapon 3, right?
The one with Joe Pesci.
No, Joe Pesci, the other DeVito. And then also she had a Red Hot Chili Peppers blood.
Oh, she had Blood Sugar Sex Magic post. That's right, in her office, exactly.
Interesting, right? That was another. And then she also had in the office there was. Those canisters that you fill up with water to put in your super soaker gun? There were 2 of those sitting on the shelf. I don't know. Maybe they ran out of props. They're like, let's put some super soaker canisters.
Super soakers. That's funny. All right. You guys have any super chats? We got one from Amy Polino, $20. Thank you, Amy. Much appreciated. Do you have any more points on that, Tristan?
I'm thinking of other funny little details, but I mean, it's not as crazy of an esoteric film as THX is. You know, I mean, it's not as as poignant as that, and it doesn't leave like that lasting of an impression. But THX is like haunting. It's like a film that you watch it once, and then like 10 years later, you're still kind of thinking about it because it's so horrific. But yeah, I mean, Demolition Man is all right. 90s cheeseball fun.
Yeah, I just wanted to include us having a goofy one, so it's not,
Good balance.
have a good mood of positive and silly at the same time. All right, I've included Tristan's channel there in the description, Primal Edge Health, so everybody subscribe to him. And thank you, Amy, very much for that super chat, $20, much appreciated. Thank you, all you 200 nerds tonight. Great show, great chat. Next up, I'm sure Tristan and I will come back and we'll do another show on something very soon. I'll be doing a stream on next Globalism book is Terrence McKenna, thanks to Tristan's recommendation, Food of the Gods. I'm a good ways into it now. Them dumb old psychonauts.
You got to do some Tim Leary too. The 8 Circuit.
Oh, I do. Yes, that will be on there. And then I'm gonna do.
Inchbeck is kind of got some weird stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. The problem is all these dudes. They're so kind of masturbatory in their
output. They just say the same crap and that
and they're just so full of themselves
and cite each other. They obsessively cite each other too.
Yeah, and they say the same stuff, and they think it's somehow new. But McKenna's the other book, True Hallucinations. I think you would enjoy that one because it's kind of autobiographical. Mm-hmm. He talks about his experience with the mushroom and his brother going crazy with the mushroom. There's this one part of that book, and I told you about it before, but it just I always remember it, where he meets this German neuroscientist type guy, and then he meets him in South America and then sees him in a different setting. The guy tried to act like he didn't know him, but he did know him. So there's this kind of weird like undertone of intelligence agencies and espionage type stuff in True Hallucinations, but it's all subtext, right? Like he doesn't blatantly, except for the passage which some people say he was saying he was recruited. That I was recruited to work for the mushroom, spreading the word. He does say that, but yeah, True Hallucinations, that's another good one to look at as far as Psychonauts goes.
All right, and remember too that you can support Jay's analysis by subscribing to the website. You can also subscribe at YouTube, but there's the link to the subscription. Also get signed copies of Esoteric Hollywood at Jay's analysis in the shop. So thank you guys, great movie stream. Look for some new ones to come. I think next up I'll be doing a movie stream on either exorcism demon movies from like Catholic stuff, like Exorcist 1, 2, and 3, and I don't know, The Sacrament, or something like that, or maybe an Antichrist stream, because there's no shortage of dumb Antichrist movies like Damien.
Did you do
that kind of
stuff? Did you do the John Carpenter one that you mentioned earlier? What's that film called? Prince of Darkness?
I did a John Carpenter stream, like a year ago. And I did The Thing, Prince of Dark. I did an Apocalypse trilogy stream. So it's The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness. I think it came out pretty good, but the algorithm didn't really like it, so it only got like 5,000 views. So, but there is a John Carpenter stream if you want to do it. However, there's other John Carpenter movies too that I haven't done yet. So we could definitely.
They Live? Did They Live?
Say what?
They Live is actually pretty. I mean, if you.
Yeah, I haven't done a They Live stream. I did do a video.
There's a lot in there. There's like the weird Alex Jones type character in there. You remember that? The guy who's
who's sending out the rebel transmission. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he ends up being a part of the whole thing and trying to bring other people in. That was a good one. I've downloaded another film I downloaded recently. You were talking the other night, and you mentioned, I forget what the episode was, but you were on a stream and you talked about Silence. That movie's come up a couple times with me as well. The Scorsese film. I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't watched it yet either, but yeah, that'll probably be in the Catholic exorcism stream. I don't know if it doesn't have exorcism in it, but I'm gonna do something like that. I don't know, like demon exorcism movies. That would be a good one to do. But all right,
you like Scorsese? What you like?
Yeah, I like quite a few. I like quite a few Martin Scorsese movies. Absolutely.
Yeah. I really like Gangs of New York a lot for some reason.
Yeah.
Bill the Butcher, I like that character.
I even like he did a funny 80s dark satire movie.
King of Comedy.
Called After Hours. If you've not seen it.
I like King of Comedy is him too, right?
Yeah. Have you seen After Hours?
No, I'll have to look it up.
It's good. Yeah. It's a lesser known Scorsese.
Yeah.
But King of Comedy is good too, yeah. With De Niro.
The Departed. Departed's an interesting
one. Departed is really good, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie, but like as a time capsule too, like when texting was really big, but before smartphones.
Exactly.
Kind of a very different world.
Yeah, we can definitely pick out some of those type of movies to do. Like we haven't even done a mob movie stream. There's a zillion great mob movies to do. So
Yeah.
could do all those. And a lot of those have a lot of insights in them too. So, oh yeah, Stigmata. That's a stupid one. You know, it would be funny to do. You know, like Stigmata, End of Days. That Arnold one is hilarious just because it's dumb. Like Arnold fighting Satan with a bazooka and shit. I mean, it's just
Dude,
it's
I have to
really
watch.
stupid.
Yeah, I remember seeing clips of that on TV back in the day. I don't think I ever watched the whole movie.
It's really dumb. And then
Yeah.
Gabriel Byrne and Stigmata is really dumb too. So any of those
Yeah,
could
Ninth
be
Gate.
fun.
Ninth Gate's another one of those.
Yeah,
kinda,
I mean that's a big part of Esoteric Hollywood too. And I've done a few interviews talking about Ninth Gate, but we could do like a crazy cult, like Eyes Wide Shut meets Ninth Gate meets, you know, crazy cult movies stream as well.
I still haven't seen that Midsummer movie. You watched that one, right?
Yeah, I did a video and a stream on that one. So yeah.
Yeah.
And shout out to Aaron and Melissa for shouting out me and our crew in their newest video. So if you haven't seen Aaron and Melissa's new Midsummer video, go watch it. They did a really good analysis, and they give Jay's analysis a shout out and a shout out to Esoteric Hollywood.
Nice.
All right, dude. God bless. Thank you, Tristan. You want to give any info out about Primal Edge Health?
No, just check out the channel Primal Edge Health. You find me on Instagram as well under Primal Edge Health, and then on the Twitter, I'm just Tristan Haggard on Twitter. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Jay. It's been nice talking.
Well, we'll talk again soon.
Everybody. Yeah, God bless, man.